This is Rewired. I'm Jeff Cook.
I'm Katie Whitlock.
Katie, we have been circling this topic on our calendar for a while.
It's here.
It's here. It has arrived. Friends, in the Enneagram circle, there's a common puzzle around types 3, 6s, and 9s. Each of these types receive the world through their primary center, but they do not engage the world with that center. 3, 6s, and 9s are sitting in their center, but they are also repressed in that center. And the question becomes, how the heck does this work? And for those who think deeply about Enneagram, this is one of the first questions that really kind of comes up, I think. And you kind of go, yeah, and I don't know what the answer is. Mm-hmm. And today we're talking about an answer. Joey Shuey has a book released today. Shuey's answer here is not only arguably the best, but it sheds light not just on the 3, 6, 9. It has an elegance that elevates something important in all the 9 types, and she calls this solution processing center. And so that's where we're going. Now, anyone who's listened to Katie's podcast, to our podcast, knows how important Joey's thought has been to her work.
Joey is, I think of her as my mentor in the Enneagram, her and her mother. And I am like a Joey defender until the day I die. I think Joey Shuey is the most important voice in the Enneagram right now, at least in the sense of she is coming up with new things that no one else is coming up with. And Joey is so in tune with the Enneagram and how it shows up in people that she just so quickly can catch on if you're mistyped. The other skill that I think makes Joey phenomenal at her job is, again, because she's an 8, she doesn't just like accept things as they're told to her. What I see in Joey that I really, really admire is she just has no qualms about being, okay, the theory's wrong. Like if she sees something in somebody, she automatically is like, okay, I have to come up with another explanation. And that's why she's the only one coming up with all this new stuff, is because, at least in my view, like she has this incredible combination of being able to notice things in people and not feeling obligated to line up with what has been taught previously in the Enneagram, if she really feels like it's wrong. Anyway, I love Joey. I think she's phenomenal at her job. And I think she has I've seen her get a lot better at how she gives what she is so good at to people.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see where she goes. And Joe, if you're listening to this, mwah.
So speaking of mistyping and going against common knowledge, my favorite Shuey story was the first time she was on. I had heard a rumor that someone in her family had gotten mistyped, and I brought it up, and she goes, oh yeah. And she named her sibling who had gotten mistyped. And I was like, well, wait. You live in a family that arguably knows more about this than anyone else. Like you have a collective environment that you could get in a car with, traveling Enneagram knowledge. And one of you got mistyped. How did this work? And she goes, well, one day I went to mom and said, when are we going to talk about the fact that so-and-so is really a 6 and not a 4?
This number, yeah.
But in terms of courage, of self-confidence, courage.
Yes,
speaking,
the courage.
You're going to somebody who is published on these numbers and very likely has used their child as an example. This isn't going to be a small conversation.
Oh, no.
And I appreciate that.
We'll get into we talked about this. We might do like a peer review kind of thing of her book later. Today we're going to kind of just do kind of some intro stuff into processing centers, but I love her. I think she's great.
You forgot to footnote, best thinker in the Enneagram world, with the obvious exception of my podcast partner. I think you were supposed to put that in the beginning.
Right. That is what I meant. Yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that the record was clear there. Wouldn't want any oversights in our podcast. Well, to get in this, then, we're going to be looking at the intro to Shuey's book. And so as not to spoil everything, her book has 9 chapters, each on the 9 types. She's going to elevate the idea of processing center throughout this book. We're just going to look at the intro and some of the introductory things she says. She does a great job in this book, in my reading of, she really is focusing on stance, which she calls reference points, processing center, and an idea that she calls the processing divide, which I imagine all of these things are going to get some of our attention in the future. So, but there's lots to like here. The book is out. You can pick it up on Amazon today. And setting our work aside, of course, this is some of the most creative work that I've seen published since I got into Enneagram, just to piggyback on what Katie already aptly said. So with that, I got a definition. You want to jump into this?
Yeah, let's do it.
This actually was in the chapter prior to the one that I sent you.
Perfect.
But she defines processing center in the intro as this. She says 3 6s and 9s shift counterclockwise to process with a preferred center. Their dominant center, that would be head, heart, body. Their dominant centers serve as home base, determining their fueling emotion. Fueling emotion is what she calls underlying feeling. Primary types trust their processing center more than their dominant center. And this is going to be the big thing for her. Primary types, 3 6s and 9s, are what she is calling primary types. 3 6s and 9s trust their processing center more than their dominant center, causing 9s to stay too long in thinking, 6s too long in feeling, and 3s too long in doing. That's where we're starting. What do you hear there?
What I hear here is, I think what you said at the beginning, but the solution to how are 3s starting in the feeling center and feeling repressed, right? How are 9s starting in the doing center and they're doing repressed? Mm-hmm. You said, as soon as you get into advanced Enneagram work, this is the first question that pops up. This is the first question that pops up for intro students in the classes I teach. I'll teach center of intelligence and everything's great. And then as soon, like day 2, I'll get into stance and everybody's hands go up. They're like, excuse me. Right? This does not make sense. And like you said, forever, I've just had to say, like, well, just go with me, right? I know it doesn't make sense. We'll get into it. And this is Joey's solution for that. Mm-hmm. This is why, right? It's because it's two separate things. You can use these centers. You can use your center of intelligence, your primary center first, and then you switch into using something later, right? Which means you can be repressed in actually using the center that you started in.
One of the things that she's really great at is the observational side. And so in a lot of her talking about this, she's going to say, this is what's happening. This is what I notice. This is what I see. This is what I intuit. Mm-hmm. She will draw terms to highlight that. Philosopher that I am, I would love to hear her go off a little bit more in terms of what she thinks is actually taking place. But spot on in terms of the observation. These 3 types are in her language, they're staying too long in this other center. Mm-hmm. And why are they staying there is going to be what we really end up highlighting. But just that movement, she notes the movement that in TJ and I's language, it was that 3 6s and 9s take in the world through their primary center, but they don't engage the world through their primary center. That it's almost like you've eaten something. You know how your throat kind of closes up after you swallow? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like that. You take in the world, but then you go, whoop. I'm shutting down action. I'm shutting down thinking. I'm shutting down feeling. So that's jumping into this. That's what I see.
You've told me kind of you were missing something that Joey kind of finally has put all together.
Of all things, my oldest and I used to go out to lunch quite a bit and talk Enneagram, and we were diagramming things and came across the combinations, and that's what we ended up talking about. Was there's something here that's driving these types. I didn't have the solution, that counterclockwise shift for 3 6s and 9s to make sense of it, but I consistently, and just to plus what I see in Joey's work, I think that there's something both about what these types are aiming at and how they assess if they're good in the world, if they're happy in the world, if they're accomplishing their motive in the way that they desire most. So just talking about 3, 6s, and 9s for a minute. 3s, taking the world through their feeling center, are processing, in Joey's language, with action. But what they're processing is whether or not they are getting the attention and acclaim desired. But that moves them back into that, into the heart center. 6s are processing with feeling. They're taking the world through their head, but they are processing whether or not they're good in the world based on emotions and connections with other people. And when they have those connections with other people, it establishes for them the safety and security they desire. But that's a head-centered drive. That's a head-centered, that's the fueling emotion, right, is what Joey calls it, or the underlying feeling. For 5, 7s, and 9s taking the world through their intuitive center, through their body, but they shift over into thinking. The thinking processing is going to target something like, how do I make things as easy as possible? How do I assess the world in a way that doesn't sap me of my resources? Once they've done the assessment in that space, they can move back into that body center and say, I feel comfortable in the world and I have control. 3, 6s, and 9s, that movement into those other centers allow them to meet their primary need, their motive, allow them to address their underlying feeling. And that's what I was needing from her work. But I think the best way to think about processing center is it's not just processing. Processing is a big idea. What I think it is it's about assessment. Am I good in the world? Am I happy in the world? It's kind of the very last thing that takes place after you've kind of engaged the world through your stance. Once you've engaged the world through your stance, then processing center takes over and says, all right, did we do the thing? And then we start over. What you think?
I think that's great. Can you walk us through very quickly, just to set up what you saw 8, 3, and 1s being driven by?
I mean, I think a lot of us, when we get into seeing the fact that the Enneagram divides into 3s real easy, you start throwing out numbers, So people who get into tri-types do this, even though I really don't like tri-types. They haven't worked for me very well. Or, you're kind of like, well, the 2, the 5, and the 7, they all have this thing going for them. And that's all that Augie and I were doing. But the thing about, if you were to put it on a circle, 8, 3, 1, 2, 4, 6, 5, 7, 9, it actually creates a very elegant looking set of triangles. And I'm always attracted to that. Whenever there's elegant triangles, I'm like, okay, there might be something here. And so, but really it's just looking at the fact that I think there's something similar here. And so for us, 8, 3s, and 1s, they want to accomplish things. And this would be, TJ and I have bantered about this, but the assessment tool is accomplishment. Am I accomplishing the things that I want? Am I enacting my will in the world such that I meet my motive? 2s, 4s, and 6 are not accomplishment oriented. 2s, 4s, and 6s primarily are about connections. They are relationally focused. That's why the 6 is moving into that heart space. And when assessing, am I good in the world? It's all going to be about who am I connected with, and are those connections meeting my motive? And 5, 7s, and 9s, again, all of them are targeting something like, what is the easiest course of action for me? And they're living in that thinking space of, analyzing the world kind of like a puzzle, looking for, how do I maintain my resources, especially for the 5 and 9. How do I maintain my resources and still get what I want in the world? And 7s, for different reasons, are seeking to make things as easy as possible so that they can go do the other fun stuff that they want to do. So that ease, connection, and accomplishment was the big idea for us.
I think that's great. I think the big idea here is that you and Augie were seeing the end result, and and you put the words of achievement, connection, and ease on the end result that you were seeing. And what Joey has given us is, how did we get there, right? How did we start from the regular Enneagram symbol and ended with these 3 new groupings of 3? That's the significance of Joey's achievement here is that she has explained the mechanism by which we get to these new 3 groups of 3, which is, like you said, what we were missing. So I think we're going to go through. Do you have anything else to say before we start going through them?
No, I think we should talk through. We're just going to talk through 3 paragraphs. She spends just a brief time outlining the big idea, and then the way the Joey's book is set up is like most Enneagram books. She has 9 chapters, and she really does a deep dive into each of the types, and so she'll spell out processing center throughout each of the chapters. So, but to set the idea in motion. She has a subchapter in the intro, and just starting with doing processors. You and I are doing processors.
Yay!
She writes that while we're all doing at work, 8s, 1s, and 3s are processing with action and implementation. I think those are good words. Action and implementation. Doing processors are considered motors because they are valued in the workforce for their ability to make things happen. If a company is struggling to meet a strategic goal of sustainable growth, stagnancy can often be attributed to a lack of motors. 8s, 1s, and 3s should be represented in the decision-making body for growth to be an actionable priority. You'll notice, again, very much talking about working environments and the chemistry that's needed for an organization to move forward. But the big idea here I see is, again, the processing with action and implementation. What do you hear here?
What I'm hearing here is, when I first introduce an idea like this to a group of people who've never heard about it before, one of the things I always get is, well, I'm a connection person, but I also really value implementation, right? Or I'm a doing processor, but I really value connection and ease or whatever, right? Like people find it, if they don't already know their number, sometimes it's hard because like I feel like I value all 3. Great. What I hear here, 8s, 3s, and 1s, depending on their number, you might also value connection or ease or something that the other 2 processing centers do. But what I know about 8, 3, and 1s is that if there is not also action and implementation, at the end of the day, if we have not implemented something new and moved forward, you are going to feel like nothing got done, right? Even if the people in the other processing centers would disagree with you, right? Maybe you are far enough in your career, you understand that connection is an important tool to use when implementing something, right? But at the end of the day, your processing center is going to tell you the thing that, like, if that thing is missing, you're going to feel like nothing got done. That's doing processing language, but that's what I know about myself, right? I can do all these other things all day. Sure, I can talk to thinking processors about the easiest way to do something, but then we have to do it, right? Then we have to do it, or else it feels like we just wasted a bunch of time. So I think, anyway, that's a long way to say what I hear here is doing processors, you have to end further than where you started, or else we're going to feel like nothing happened. And
at the end of the day is a great phrase there.
Yeah. At the end of the day, what needs to happen is kind of what I think of as your processing center.
So talking about like what's going on under, in the inner life of a person, this is where I really want to kind of shape some of this. And I'm positive she'll have more language that I haven't gotten to, but I want to place processing with that end of the day target. This is the place that I'm aiming at, driving toward, self-assessing. At the end of the day, did we get something done? Will be first and foremost, in my view, for 8s, 3s, and 1s on this front. They do so from different places. 3s and 8s have an independent stance. 1s have a reactive stance. That's going to color a little bit of this, but at the end of the day, did I accomplish? For 3s, did I accomplish the goal? Are we accomplishing the goal? For 1s, am I improving things? Am I moving things forward? Am I making things better? For 8s, we've talked about this in part, but we could discuss it more. For 8s, I think it's, are we strong? Are we vulnerable? Do we have the high ground moving forward? Are we in a position where we're not going to get punched in the nose? These seem to me to be the places the 8 3s and 1s would land on that backside. You got thoughts, sir?
I think the only other thought I was going to bring up was, because we're vocab people here on Rewired.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
We could do another whole episode on this, but I actually do think I like implementation more than achievement. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's just my 3 brain, because I fundamentally link achievement to ego, because my achievements inform me of who I am. And I know that doesn't super track for 1s, and it really doesn't track for 8s, right? So I do like implementation just because that feels a lot more neutral to me. But maybe if an 8 was here, like maybe 8s are trying to achieve. I don't know. It's just in my head, achievement is inherently linked to, I want people to see this like achievement, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which is not really what 8s and 1s are doing. So
I think that's worth playing with. Like the synonyms here. It's something about execution. Mm-hmm. It's something about making things tangible.
Absolutely.
It's something about, this needs to be real. It can't be in your emotions, and it can't be in your head.
Yes. Yeah. You need to be able to point to something that is different than it was at the beginning of the day, right?
Yeah.
Something in the real world needs to have been affected or changed if you're a doing processor.
So this is where her language may be valuable, and I'm skipping over it. But if she says you're processing with doing, that insists on something out in the real world physically taking place. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So are we acting in such a way that something moves? That just strikes me as real valuable.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense to tie that to the doing center, right? Mm-hmm. Like 8, 9s, and 1s, the people who start in that doing center, we talk about environment all the time with them, right? We talk about how does it tangibly feel to be in this area, right? So it totally makes sense for processing with doing to require a physical change, mm-hmm. right? That makes total sense to me.
The interesting thing there is the 8s and 1s take in the world through their intuitive center. They take the world in through their body. And so affecting the physical world has that clean overlap. The 3 is unique here. The 3 is desiring attention, processes, independently. But there is a belief by the 3. If I affect the world, then I will get the attention that I desire. Yeah. That's going to be different than 2s and 4s. And we'll say why. But if I do the thing that garners attention, then I will get the attention that I desire is, mm-hmm. I think, a subconscious belief.
Well, 3s. I think it just makes, I know that's true, because to me, I'm like, yeah, obviously, right? Like, if you want attention, you need to prove tangibly that you are worthy of that, right? You have to prove it. You have to change something. You have to do something. You have to build something. And then people see that thing, and then they like you.
That's how that works.
Right? Of course.
So many 3s you can look to who are in athletics. Mm-hmm. Here's an athlete. Here's the prize. Here are the people on the stage who are getting the attention because they won the event, the game, etc. All I need to do is become the best athlete, and then I will get the attention. Yeah. I know a bunch of people who grew up in church world. That guy is on stage with a microphone. All these people have shown up and are sitting in this room listening to him. That's what I want. Yeah. I want to be the guy with the microphone, so I do the things to get that job. Lots of musicians, especially frontmen and women. I have the microphone. I'm singing to everyone. I get to showcase my beauty, my skill, my elegance in ways that others are not only moved by, but celebrate. Yeah. And you can see it's all achievement oriented, but it's for the sake of attention. And that's not how 8s and 1s are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's when we talk about 3s, not wanting to just seem valuable, we want to be valuable. Like I've heard your wife, Kelly, talk about that, right? That's what this is. Of course, we want to actually do the thing because we're doing processors, and that requires actually doing the thing, right? That's all. The stereotype about threes having listing your resume and having 17 degrees on your wall. That's all physical, tangible proof of the things that I've done that are worthy of attention, right? That's doing processing. That's all that is, right? So it all ties back. It all comes back.
Is it not the case? Play this out with me. You are valuable now because you've done the thing that's valuable, and you know it's valuable because everyone else thinks it's valuable.
Yes. Yeah.
That's how that works.
Yeah.
And it's all about implementation, execution. I'm fine with achievement.
Yeah.
8s and 1s want autonomy and want to get to that spot where when they take the world back in through their intuitions again in the future, they are experiencing the world they want to experience. The 8 doesn't want to feel vulnerable. The 1 wants to feel good in the world. Have you done the things that ensure that you are getting the motive that you crave? Agency, autonomy. Am I able to enact my will? 8s and 1s are going to be real similar, it seems to me, on this front in terms of when implementation takes place. Is what I'm implementing gaining the agency and autonomy I crave most in meeting my motive? See anything there?
If your motive is agency, which is the ability to enact your will on the world, then you probably are going to have to try to enact your will upon the world, right? Which is doing processing. 9s are weird because they want agency and they find it in a completely separate way, which we'll talk about when we get there. But that makes, like, if you are wondering if you have the ability to change the world, right? Not change the world like big, I'm going to change, but just like literally physically change the world, then you're going to have to try to physically change the world. So it makes sense that 2 of the 3 body triad numbers are doing processors, right?
I don't know if you've experienced this where something comes out in our recordings where you're just like, I didn't realize that was there. This happens to me occasionally, but one such instance happened recently with you. And I mentioned that I weigh myself 4 times a day. You paused and you went,
really?
Do you really?
Yeah. I listened to that too the other day. I was like, that's crazy.
Notice how much it overlaps with this idea.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to necessarily change the world out there first. I'm a 1. I'm trying to change myself first. Assessment, implementation, execution is not about getting a prize from somebody. It's about the metrics that I have for myself and whether or not I'm living up to those. I desire agency, which means I can control myself at a certain level. And the number on the scale, all that says is I have control over myself, which is what's primary.
Yeah.
But it's also the case that when you said that, I was like, yeah, that's actually kind of unhealthy, isn't it? I should probably think about this.
Well, I was just right. I'm the perfect age where, like, I'm a woman raised on, like, I was the first generation where women started talking about eating disorders, right? And so when you said that, I was like, that's crazy. You should not weigh yourself 4 times a day. That is disordered. But anyway, do whatever you want, Jeff. I don't care.
What's interesting, and this is where I really have wanted to ask more ones about body image and eating disorders and all the rest. Of all things, sometimes I'm trying to gain weight. So I do a lot of strength training. Part of that is putting on muscle. This was really important to me. Now I'm trying to move back kind of some of my body fat percentages. I don't think that's incredibly unhealthy. I feel like I'm coming to this with the mindset of an athlete. But, I mean, like anything, it can get out of control.
Yeah,
How many prizes do you really need?
Right. You know? Well, and like, is it health? I don't have an answer to this. And again, this is a tangent we don't need to go on. But like, is it healthy to think of your body as just like a machine that you can make do what you want? Right. Is that a good way? Probably in some ways. Sure. Right. I mean, athletes do make their bodies do things. But anyway, whatever.
One that I am. How
course.
Should you think about how should you think about your body?
Right. I mean, the stereotype is that, like, like one, again, talking about eating disorders, like women who are 1s the very broad brush stereotype is that like they are the most prone to control their eating too much, right? Or over exercise or whatever, right? Because they want too much control over themselves. So, but anyway, to bring it back to doing processing, I like what you said, that is a tangible thing that you can look at to know that you have affected either the world or yourself as part of the world, right? Whatever.
Correct.
Yeah.
Just to circle around to 8s. So a lot of times we see 8s out there doing amazing things, lifting 50,000 pounds when nobody else can. Yeah. That's not always what implementing agency means. Living with an 8, I know that implementing agency might mean I'm really, really good at locking my door and keeping you out. That can be what that looks like. Sometimes it looks like I'm going to do the heavy lifting at my job to ensure that I have a career moving forward, and that motive, I am not vulnerable to anyone's to lack of finances. There's a lot of 8s who get kind of a libertarian streak where like push against the government coming and taking their their tax money.
Right.
I want to have control over my career. Can be a way that this exemplifies itself. I feel like 8s have a kaleidoscopic. There's a lot of different expressions of what it looks like to achieve agency for 8s.
Yeah. What I hear the 8s talk about that I have talked to about doing processing is just 8s. Again, a lot of it is corporate because a lot of it is from Joey, but I'm also thinking about the other 8s like that I knew in the cohort with Joey, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of this is kind of corporate coded, but 8s are valued because you bring them on your team and everything gets bigger, right? So if you are in a business and you need to expand your company, like hire an 8, right? Like 8s just walk in and they don't let things stay the same. So every day we have to have done something. We have to have done something more. We have to have made something bigger. It makes perfect sense to me that Joey as an 8 picked the words action and implementation to describe doing processing, because I think that's what she does every day. I think that's what's running through an 8's mind every day is how do I implement this and make this bigger, right?
This is what I really want to talk to you about. So I think I've said this a handful of times. 2 5s and 8s, I think, are the hardest to understand. 8s on this front, I think when we see 8s, they are in these roles. I think it's the case that 8s aren't often seen elsewhere. There are spaces that 8s go that don't look anything like this, that don't look like higher, faster, bigger. I think we feel like that's who 8s are, and this may be why a lot of times people get mistyped as 8s, because we don't see self-protective 8. We don't see hiding 8. We don't see 8 who is intentionally avoiding folks. But this overlaps with an independent desire for agency in a lot of people who have extracted themselves from social, corporate work, family environments. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, 8s can isolate.
I think that's a good point. So maybe instead of higher, faster, better, just use the word more. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking of our friend Andrew, who was just on the podcast. He's an 8 and he's an incredible therapist. I don't know if he's constantly pushing for faster or better, right? Like that's hard when you're dealing with people with like trauma. But he loves
pushing for intensity.
He loves pushing for intensity, and he loves pushing for more. Like dig deeper into that story, right? Let's go deep. So deeper can be something we can give to 8s, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not where we are right now. What we're not going to do is stay where we are right now. I see the movement of 8s, right?
I think if they can access, especially if they're accessing they're pushing into 2 space.
Yeah.
I would love to suggest, like, imagine drug addicted eight, eight in excess. The intensity is about something else. The like eights who I'm thinking of a famous eight who had a heroin addiction, and their severe step away from society in pushing into both agency and intensity of experience. That's how that got manifested. All I want to say is I don't think that person is seen very often and associated with eightness. Go ahead.
I have heard eights talk about that move as that's them touching 5.
I agree.
So that's when an 8 removes themselves from the room, that's the 8 going into 5. And you won't see them.
Yeah.
And they'll come back when they're ready to be big again or more or deeper or whatever they want, right? So sure,
Agreed.
I mean all numbers do their stress move, right? 8s also certainly. And like we said like that might last a long time. Like your switch into your stress number, you can be there for quite a while, right?
I want to highlight excess and not the stress move. I want to highlight the push towards unhealthy expressions of I'm in control of myself and I will push hard against you if you get in my space. That's not I'm going to take my ball and go home yet.
Sure.
I'm just saying that's a gear that I think is overlooked, and I just want to place it into our conversation that I don't think this gets enough attention.
Yeah. I think I have thoughts, but I don't know what they are. So I'll give you sure.
One of the things that I hear from a lot of eights, especially those who come on our podcast or perhaps are out in the public sphere, is they're just in a different space. Like they're not in, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me space. Right. You know, they are in a space where they want to exert their power in a way that elevates the people they care about and moves their enterprise forward.
Yeah. Well, I think it is certainly true that eights, to know eights, we have to hear from eights. And to hear from an 8, you kind of inherently have to talk to an 8 that's done a little bit of work.
Exactly.
Right? The one thing I would say about that, though, is I don't think, like, I'm a 3 who's done a little bit of work. I can still talk about what I was like when I hadn't. Right? So I guess I don't want to say that just because we only hear from healthy 8s doesn't mean that, like, there's this whole part of 8 that doesn't get talked about because 8s don't talk. I mean, maybe. I know their whole thing is being vulnerable. I don't know. This feels like a different conversation.
Of all things, I think this is in the pocket because it pushes towards how we see people processing. And sometimes there are some 8s who in excess say, execution for me, implementation for me means I have isolated myself as far away from you as I possibly can because you want to control me. That is absolutely a gear that some 8s go into.
Do you not feel like an 8 would just push you out of the way? Why would an 8 withdraw from you? That doesn't sound like an 8 move to me. I feel like an 8 would get you out of the way.
It's because their mom and dad routinely knock on their door and say, "What are you going to do with your life today?"
Okay, will you cut this next part out? Because I just have a question. Jeff, cut this next part out. Isn't part of that just like autism too, though?
It can be, but here's the thing. I think, so this may be a conversation about, let's go here for a second. This may be a case about where is it that motive actually lands?
Yeah.
I think it may be deeper than neurodiversity. I think that like it may be the case that motive gets colored by some other stuff.
Yeah. Sure. Keep this in if you want, actually. I just didn't know if Augie would like want us to talk about it. I don't have anything to say about that because I have zero experience with neurodiversity.
Sure.
So I don't know what I would say about where I think motive lands in terms of neurodiversity. From what I know about autism, which again is very little, it makes sense to me that Augie would have that reaction Because sure, he's an 8 and he's also autistic, right? So, but I don't, how much of that can we put on not autistic 8s, right? Or whatever. I guess I feel like that just throws another variable, and science girl I am. I don't know how to separate those two variables.
Let me pitch somebody who has the same behavior as the person who has been abused in their home. The 8 that's abused we see them come out and get really aggressive. That's not always their gear, though. Some abused 8s will absolutely, lock their door and scream profanities at the people knocking.
Sure. Yeah, but that
is the
that second part of what you just said, that wasn't that person just going in and being quiet and like this withdrawal move, right?
It's a both and, I think.
I'm making my own space, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Sure.
If it requires me to put out my porcupine quills, then I will.
Yeah.
So I was hoping that.
Can you draw this back? Can you draw it back to doing processing again for me? What question are we answering?
They want agency.
Yes, absolutely.
And they're processing agency through this filter of, have I done the things necessary to ensure that I have total self-control? Sometimes that means really succeeding on big stages. And sometimes that means I have put a double padlock on my door. And here would be my big idea. I think that 8s don't get seen on the padlock side sometimes in terms of the conversation.
That's probably one of those things that, like, when we talk about 1s, and I was like, you know what? I don't experience 1s as angry. And then I had a lot of family members of 1s reach out to me and be like, yes, they are. Like, maybe that's just the 8 version of this. Like, maybe if you don't have an 8 in your life, like maybe if you have an 8 for a kid, this, right? That there is this other half of them that is, I'm locking the door to stay out of my face. And the rest of us are just debating, does this happen to 8s? Because we just don't see it. So I certainly, first of all, having you just say that in a sentence like that, I agree with all of that. So I don't know what I was disagreeing with at the beginning.
Let me tie it to the next triad. Let's talk about 2s. Part of our misunderstanding of 2s, 5s, and 8s is we have to understand them through their own self-analysis, but they're not doing self-analysis oftentimes unless they're really healthy. Yeah. That creates a whole, like invisible space sometimes.
Right, for sure.
And I think you see this with 2s. Of course we know who 2s are. They're the helpers.
Yeah.
You, as the daughter of a 2, know exactly that there is much more going on under the surface.
Right.
So with 2s, 4s, and 6s, to set this up, processing through feelings. The 6 is moving. It takes the world in through their head, shifts into the feeling center in order to process. Both the 2s and 4s desire attention. The 6 desires security. The 6 is getting security through other people. And so the part of them feeling good in the world means that they connect with other human beings, because that's going to be the source of their security. And that's why the relational element is so valuable. What do you see with these 3?
So this is a moment where I need to be honest. I think because I'm a 3, this one makes the least amount of sense to me, because I started here and then I literally made the decision to leave because subconsciously I use the language of like 3, 6, and 9 don't trust their primary center to get them what they want, right? I do not trust myself to use the tools of the feeling center to be able to get what the feeling center tells me I should want, right? So I really don't understand what it's like to process with feeling. I don't understand what these numbers are looking at. I don't understand, like, action makes so much sense to me. Did we do a thing today? Did we affect the physical world? Yes or no? And when it comes to connection, I just want to say, like, they're people focused. But I don't really know what that means. I don't know what they're, like, what are you looking at to make sure, to like see if you're okay? I think as a 3, honestly, that's the hardest for me to understand. Like, thinking, I actually do. get. I'm going to say that again because you can hear barking.
Please, thank you.
Thinking I actually do get, maybe because I'm not connected to it at all. So it's like, sure, objectively, I can understand that. But just something in me about feeling, I don't understand how you can assess the world through feeling and connection.
Right.
I need
we're
you to
hitting
talk
something
about
here.
this.
No, this is special footnote. I don't know where this is going to go, but this is really important.
Yeah.
Because what I'm hearing isn't your 3 answer. I'm hearing TJ's 9 answer. And TJ's 9 answer is, I don't understand how you think you can move the world.
Yeah.
It's invisible to him, and he comes from the body triad. And that same sort of thing, or for the 6, like, I don't understand how you can trust your thinking.
Yeah.
I don't get that. Like, how do you not trust your thinking?
Yeah, right, right. What do you mean?
But that's a thing. And so anyway, that's what I'm hearing there in terms of what I would read into 3-ness here, and the reason that you're shifting, and I think this is valuable because it's going to color the 2, 4, 6, is I would imagine that you think that feelings get in the way of what you actually want.
Yeah.
Your emotions give you exactly the kind of attention that you don't desire. Mm-hmm. Have you seen those emotional people?
Yeah.
They're not praiseworthy.
Yeah. People don't think they're like competent, you know? Yeah.
Whereas the 2, 4s, and 6s are assessing where they are in the world, and it has nothing to do with what they accomplish. It has everything to do with the emotional connection that they feel.
But what does that mean? Like, they're just like, they just look around and like, if I'm okay if nobody's mad at me, like, is that what that means? Right? As long as everybody
I love
feels
that this
okay.
is invisible to you.
I don't see it at all.
Wonderful.
I don't understand. I guess, like, what's the thing that's like letting you know that you're okay? That everybody's cool with you? Again, that's 3. But like,
do you love me?
And that's it. But how do you know if someone loves you?
Because you see them. They see me. They see me. They speak into those spaces where my feelings are up, and I feel the jolt of connection that not only do they understand, they look, see, understand, but they also speak into those spaces with language that establishes care, language that reminds me that I matter, that they will protect me for the 6s.
That lands, because as you were saying, I want to focus on when you said they see me, because my reaction to that was how can people see you if you're not putting things that you've done in front of them, right? Like a 3, like, what I have done is who I am. And so that makes sense to me, that if people don't have that, you skip that middle part of the things I've done. So it's just, do people see me? Do they love me? Do I feel connected? Yeah. That makes sense to me. Knowing what I know about how I treat my accomplishments and what I want them to stand in for, like, personality wise, that actually, like, that lands. Okay.
I think the 3 chases isn't the right word. The 3 notes from an independent spot. Here are the markers in our culture, in our family, in my social circle. Here are the markers of acceptance, notoriety, and they go for them.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The 2s and 6s, let's just start with them because the 4 is going to be different.
Yeah.
2s and 6s process externally and with a reactive posture, and it's all earning. I'm looking at you. I'm looking at the person in front of me, and I'm saying, what does this person need and how can I meet it? Mm-hmm. And it's not about the marker of success. It's more, I am here to serve, and I connect through service. I connect through that earning, and I'm assessing their feelings, everybody else's feelings, and noting how can I do things that connect my feelings with their feelings.
Yeah.
I think that's how that would work. Yeah.
That makes sense to me, because the question that I want to ask is like, how do you know that someone loves you if you haven't done anything? Like, how do you know? Because like, if someone just tells me, oh, I love you, I think you're great. Like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, what did you see that made you say that? Right.
Mm-hmm.
What did I do that made you say that?
Mm-hmm.
So this ambiguity of this, do you see me? Are we connected? Have I taken care of you? Without any physical thing is really confusing for me, which again means that you're probably right.
Well, let's elevate how you will see the difference, I imagine, between yourself and your mom. Your mom's a 2.
Mm-hmm.
Can you spell out the difference?
In
how you both are seeking attention?
Honestly, I think you did it better than I could have. Honestly,
Okay.
No.
That worked for you.
I do think that this is so cool. I really do think we're really blind. Like, when you said that TJ said the same thing about the body, about doing, I was like, oh, so it like it makes sense that I feel this way. I honestly don't. Like, that is one thing about my mom, not just about my mom, but twos in general. Like, I have always been like, well, what are you wanting from people? What do you want? Right?
Yes.
What makes you feel done? And it's just, I guess just processing with feeling is this ambiguous thing. There's no like achievement that you can point to and say, this is the thing. It's just a feeling. And so you can't really quantify it. And I'm wanting to quantify it.
It's ambiguous.
It is ambiguous.
It's also, 3s don't live in the present.
Yeah.
But the 2 and the 6, and the 6 will engage the present through their stance. So 1s, 2s, and 6s earn what they want in the present, and that's where they feel the connection is now. So am I doing the things that make me feel the person that I want to be with, or the community that I want to be with, or
it feels terrifyingly vulnerable to think about people seeing me without having put anything in front of them to see. Like, just people seeing you as you're standing there. And the fact that like humans can see you and understand you without you doing anything, that's actually really scary. I actually don't want to do that. I would rather put something in front of you that you can look at.
You have named why 2s and 6s come across as neurotic sometimes.
Yeah.
That's the wire they are walking out on. And they understand that they are terribly vulnerable.
Yeah.
And they're vulnerable because the person in front of them may not love them back.
Yeah. Oh, 2s and 6, brave. Y'all are brave. Very brave.
Do you see that in your mom?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one of the best things about her. I don't know, her ability to see people without needing anything tangible.
Yeah.
To see. She just sees them. Like, she sees your soul and your heart, you know?
And that's what needs to get named, because on the flip side of that, this is what she desires most from the people in front of her.
Yeah. She wants
you to see.
She wants to know, are our hearts connected?
Yeah.
That's like how I'm going to talk about it. She wants to know, are our hearts connected? And that doesn't require anything to be done, right? Not a doing processor. It's just, are we connected in our soul and our heart? Correct. And I do want my heart to be connected to my mother. But in general, I actually don't want my heart to be connected to people, because that's scary, right?
Independent.
Independent. Yeah. That means I have to slow down and think about you, and also that you're going to see me, and like that's scary. So yeah, I guess just are our hearts okay? Are they connected? And that's all I can say, because there's no way to quantify that again. But that's what my mom wants to know. Can I tell you why this is making me feel really bad? Because the last,
you can share whatever you want.
I haven't talked to my mom I talk to my mom all the time, like several times a week, right?
Okay.
Not for hours at a time, but just for a couple minutes. Like we connect every few days at least. Get off of my desk. Oops. Okay. So, and the last 3 days, she's called me at a time that I can't respond because we've been recording or something. And then I like have to go to work, or I do something, or I just like don't call her back because I forget and I'm a bad kid. So I don't call her back. And now I'm feeling really bad because I know, talking about all of this, I know that that's making her feel, even though I know she still loves me, she's not upset with me. I know that's making her feel like we aren't connected because we just haven't talked in a while, right? She doesn't know what's going on with me. She hasn't talked to my heart in a few daes. And that's making me feel really bad. That's making me feel like I need to call her.
It's a tricky thing so I've said this a handful of times in terms of like my relationship with a parent who's an independent type, that I don't know if they love me. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that can be a difficult thing for us. I think 8s are a little bit different here, but I think for 3s and 7s, the rest of us in connecting with 3s and 7s have to have a radar a little bit for how they come to the world, how they express care. And I think it's right for you to say, to self-assess on that front, because that's not, I assume your priorities are different and how you express love and gain love is different.
Yeah.
I don't know if I went too far there, so I apologize.
No, I think you're right. Yeah, it's good. Thank you for illustrating feeling processing for me.
Yes. But it's, of all things, it's the future. It's that your tools are in the future and your focus is on the future. That makes you very different from the 2s, 4s, and 6s.
Yeah. I do think it is interesting that in each of these processing groups, there is one stance that's missing. And it makes total sense, right? Like how is like an independent stance number who's feeling repressed is not going to be processing with feeling. Like, just, of course, that makes sense. But just exploring that and going along with everything, that also means that a future orientation can't exist in feeling processing. And what does that say about future processing, right? It means an independent reference point can't exist in feeling processing. So what does that say about feeling processing, right? I think that is absolutely an interesting road to go down, right? To process with feeling requires you to stand here right now. Or in the past, fours can bring the past up, right? But the past is very relational as well. And you have to be either connected to someone else or yourself. Like, you can't be independent, right? You can't just be moving around with no tether.
I don't know if anyone else has said that, but that is something that desires a lot of work, and it's really important what she said. I don't know if Joey's done anything. I need to read Joey's part on 2s, 4s, and 6s, by the way. Well, no, but notice this: 8, 3s, and 1s, none of them have an internal reference point. None of them are withdrawn. They are assessing with action. None of them are withdrawn in their stance. 2s, 4s, and 6s, none of them are independent in their stance. So none of them have that future focus. And for 5, 7s, and 9s, none of them are external in their stance. None of them are reactive. Yeah. And I think that's worth naming. That there's something about that. It's kind of it's their last gear. It would be it's another sort of repressed center, as it were. Yeah. But
I think it's helpful to build definitions, right? Like if you're wondering what feeling repression is, sometimes to make a definition, it's helpful to say what it is not, right? And so feeling processing is not a focus on the future, and it is not an independent reference point. So what does that leave us with, right?
Yes.
What's left in feeling processing? And we could do that for all the centers, all the processing centers.
Correct.
So anyway.
It's good.
It's
I
good.
mean, that's a dinosaur bone to
Listen.
uncover, see what's there. The 4s, we haven't forgot you, by the way.
Yeah.
Reading down Joey's language on feeling processing. She says that feeling processors are extremely valuable because they are the most in tune with client feedback and employee need. 2s, 4s, and 6s have the most accurate read on the pulse of an organization when it comes to the well-being of clientele and personnel. Involving these feeling processors in decisions that affect culture and client engagement is paramount. Again, pushing that into what does this look like in a work environment? But feeling, feedback, other people's needs, that's what I hear there. Where does that take you?
I think this is a really interesting one to put in a corporate book, because corporate America, I'll talk specifically, having never been there, is so 3 coded, and it is so like action, movement, goals coded, that I think spaces for feeling processors, 2, 6s, and 4s, people don't value them very much, right, in corporate America. But Joey will say, like, she, I hope I'm allowed to say this. She works a lot with Chick-fil-A, and she will say they are a 264 company. Like, they are led by feeling processors. And that is why, like, if you think about the stereotype of Chick-fil-A and how people, in like the good stereotype, like they take care of their customers. They ask you, how are you doing when you come in the door? My pleasure. Like, that's what it looks like when feeling processors build a company, I guess, is what I see here. Like, they are the people in the room that are focused on culture. 8, 3s, and 1s are not focused on culture, right? 2, 6, and 4s are the people making sure that everybody's birthday, right, is up on the calendar. It is the people saying, we're all working together. How are we working together to do this thing, right? Well, that's a little more reactive stance maybe, but whatever, right? It's that they're focused on culture and people and how do people feel when they're here, which is so important, I think, for the longevity of a company, right? Yeah. 8, 3s, and 1s can get a company started and they can get it moving, but a 2, 6, 4 is how you keep your company around and keep people happy. Is when Joey teaches about this, that's what I hear her kind of saying in that, right? That's what I see there, is that I think people don't value these types, but they should. In corporate culture specifically, right? In family culture, I think these are the people keeping the family together. They're the glue. They're the people bringing people over to the house and whatever, right? Like, that can be a lot of different numbers. But anyway.
I only know 2 things about Chick-fil-A. One is they need to change their posture towards the queer community. Get together, Chick-fil-A. But second, I heard the story about expansion that they had early on, that it wasn't like they had this insanely popular product, as it were. They had people coming in saying, you know what, higher, faster, louder, let's get this national. And leadership, as you were saying, made it very relational. And I remember the phrase being used, our customers will tell us when we need to expand, as though they were reacting to the energy and emotional posture of the people that they served.
Yeah. I imagine if you're a doing processor, your natural position is going to always be to assume that moving is good. Yeah. Right? And I think a 2, 6, and 4, the gift of a 2, 6, and 4 is what you just said. They are not inherently believing that all movement is good. We should only move when it's the time to move. Yeah. Right? And because I'm a feeling processor, like, the people are going to tell me when it's time to move. Right? Thinking processors, they're going to be looking at other things. But feeling, our customers will tell us when it's time to go. I think that's great. I think that's a good example. I didn't know that story.
The marks of success are not going to be more buildings. It's not going to be more acquisitions. It's not going to be, you know, how much more market share are we taking up? The marks of success are, do our customers care about us? Yeah.
Do our employees happy here? Right.
Yeah. And if you ask the question, are you good in the world? The primary for them is, Do people see me? Do people love me? Do I feel the connection through my feeling center? 4s got the need a little attention here, as opposed to the 2s and 6s who earn. The 4 still wants your attention, but gain it in a different way. Gain it with a withdrawn posture. You got thoughts on 4s and processing?
Well, 4s have this stereotype of, again, like locking themselves in their room and withdrawing and being so mysterious and all these things. But when you talk to a 4 in real life, all the interviews I've done with 4s, over and over again, it's about connection. And over again, it's about wanting to see people's hearts and seeing people's souls. It's just also about wanting to see their own heart and their own soul as well, which 2s and 6s don't have as much of because they're reactive types, right? But this whole, what you said about what it is to feeling process, which is, are our hearts connected, right? Do you see me? That's what 4s are asking every day. Do you see me? Right? That's their whole life. Do you see me? Can I see you? Right? What does that mean to see each other? I think out of all the numbers, it makes sense that 4s are here, actually, you know? I don't know. What do you think about that?
Just building on that, I think the strategy for 4s often is self-understanding and presentation, intimate, like, lack of a better term, kind of, here's my mysteriousness, here's my uniqueness, and I want to pull you into that space. Like, I want to pull you into that space through my magnetism. If I really had beauty and value and buzzword uniqueness, then you would be drawn to it. And processing takes place in that space. Am I happy is have people who I long to draw into that space connected with me, seen me, and do we share something? One of the things that 4s will often do to kind of put, breadcrumbs on the path is, again, love you the way they want to be loved. 4s ask the best introspective questions of anybody. 4s will peer into the places in your heart and expose, some of the colors there, to like really want to pull back some of the coverings, and like, let's actually go a little deeper here. And how is that? And again, what is desired is reciprocity. Is once I've done this for you, I'm showcasing how I want to be loved in return. And that is the place of emotional connection. Yeah. And 3s love going to those places, don't they?
Yes. My favorite.
And it's worth naming there in terms of like that. The 4 in trying to engage the 3 in that space is pushing you into your repressed center, and that can be a little bit tricky.
Well, it's trying to pull you back from the place that you ran away from.
Yeah.
Right. So no, thank you. I don't want to do that.
4s in my life, in the very similar way, are inviting me into that space. If I go to the high side of 4, I might be able to engage that in a very healthy way. But oftentimes when in my conversations with 4s, if we go down those roads, it's actually pushing me a little bit into my stress move, and it's not necessarily as comfortable as I want it to be. Note 8s, 3s, and 1s all kind of have a kind of relationship with the feeling center that maybe a verse.
Or something.
Last triad, 5, 7s, and 9s. They are those, in my view, they are processing in, let me just read Joey's paragraph on thinking processors, 5, 7s, and 9s. It can be overwhelming to consider how many decisions are made by the most emotionally or physically invested types in an organization, without much input from those who process with logic and objective reason. When you consider the thinking processors, the tendencies of 7s to keep things light and on the surface can prevent them from being considered or regarded for their intellectual depth. I think that's exactly right. 5s and 9s are internally referenced. Unless time and space are provided for 5s and 9s to offer their objective input, they are prone to keep it to themselves. talk to me about thinking processors.
Well, I like your word for thinking processing, which is ease. What these numbers are looking for is ease. And to me, the way I think about ease goes very easily hand in hand with what I hear Joey talking about with thinking, which is logic. So she would say all these numbers are big logic people versus, and you know, we can have, you and I have debates about this, about the subjective side of the other half of the circle, right? But anyway, just the way that Joey talks about logic sounds also like what you are talking about with ease, which is just what is the easiest way through this? Not getting caught up in people's emotions, not getting caught up in people's agendas and what they want it to be and their expectations of what it should be. Just what's the most logical, easiest way through, right? That's what I see thinking. I just like your ease word for this because that makes sense to me. And I like that it gives me the impression that they are not getting caught up in all the things that can make it not easy, which is other people typically, right? I also, you go ahead.
To build, so I just have a little, it's because I'm a philosopher. The use of logic is I would want to use other terms here. Mostly, I just want to say 5, 7s, and 9s are engaging their head. Yeah. They're pushing into a primary center is really what's taking place. It's not really about logic and objective reason. What it's really about is utilizing one of the centers more than the others is how I'd want to characterize this. That they are trusting their head first. They like living in their head first. They prefer the outcomes of living in their head first. And you know, that's really what's taking place. And especially, as I mentioned before, for the 9, going into your head allows you to escape the physical world because that's not, in the very similar way to your language about 3s avoiding feelings, the 9 avoiding the uncomfortable nature of the physical world is all over this shift.
I am so glad we're talking about this today because I just taught a class last night and we talked so much about 9s. And I'm gonna frame what you just said, but in a little bit more of a positive light. I don't know about positive, but like Jace was standing up last night in class and he was talking about this whole how he gets caught in his head thing, right? Like he has a problem to fix, which to the rest of us means that you need to do something, right? Like he knows he needs to do something. And using TJ's language that you just gave me, it does not occur to me that the answer is just do it, right? Because I inherently kind of subconsciously believe that I can't affect the world around me. So what I see Jace doing is just thinking and thinking and thinking, how am I going to fix this problem? How am I going to fix this problem? How am I going to fix this problem? And to the rest of us who have such easy access to, well, you fix it, right? If you're a 9 and just like me as a 3, it doesn't occur to you to sit in your own primary center, right? If you're a 9, it does not occur to you to just do the tangible thing. Of course you're going to be in your head about it, right? How am I going to fix it? And you're going to look at it from all the angles. And you're going to try to figure, and you're going to think about it from over here. And then tomorrow you're going to think about it from over here. And it's over and over and you're trying to find a solution when the solution was in your home base the entire time. Just do it, right? But you're just so far away, removed from that I don't know if 9s realize that's an option, right? Until they do, and they have this great story of growth that like the 9s in my class last night were like sharing all the moments in their life when they realized that like, oh, I just have to do it, right? But that's like this big moment for a 9 is, oh, I just have to go and do it on my own. And it's just up to me. So anyway.
This is helpful. Okay, so this is plussing the theory. It can't be overstated how uncomfortable for the 6 thinking about future threats is. But that is their home base. Why would I want to stay in my head? These things make me really uncomfortable. I know that 3s don't say it, but the opinions and postures of other people, especially when things aren't going well, are deeply uncomfortable.
Deeply. the opinions of other people, especially when they're negative, is the only thing that's ever caused me to have a breakdown in front of Jace. And I've told that story before, but that's what it was about.
Why would you want to live there?
Yeah.
Why would you want to live in that heart space of the emotions of other people? I can go elsewhere. This is how to understand what 9s go through. Our language of intuition, I think, captures the center better than anyone else's. In terms of 8s, 9s, and 1s, it's really about their intuitions about physical spaces, events, and how the world hits us. And 9s feel deeply uncomfortable there. And so, like, getting one's mind around that reality for the 9, it's not about other people's emotions, and it's not about future threats. It simply is about, like, does the world around me feel a certain way? And for 9s, they just are very sensitive to that and pivot. And the pivot goes into their head, and they would much prefer to live in their head rather than do the physical things, because that's an uncomfortable space.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed.
Feeling the world is what's difficult for 9s. What's real interesting to me, I would be curious if I do know this about Jace. Jace is a runner. Jace engages the world in spaces that are meditative. Like, I know this from a lot of runners. Once you get kind of going, the world is in essence beautiful, controlled, and you can have almost a meditative experience of the world in running space. I know so many 9s who, when they get into their body, it means they're going up in Colorado. They go to the mountains, and it's very, there's not a lot of mess. There's a lot of taking in the physical beauties that take place, and that's how they're getting into their body. But there's a conflict at work is not the thing that's really gonna that's gonna be a difficult space.
I literally just had a 9 say last night. She's also a runner, but she is also like a hiker, and she does, like, she'll climb up a mountain or do these, like, hard things, right? Hard physical things was her point. And she literally said verbatim last night, I do those things to remind myself that I can do hard things. Like, if I can do this hard thing that I have control over and it's physical and meditative, then I can go to work and I can solve a conflict, right? And she's like, I have to do these physical things. And the language I would give her, she didn't say this part, to get back into your body, right? And know that the word I always use with the body triad 8, 9, and 1 is friction. Like, 8s live at the space in life where they meet life and there's friction, right? 8s love the friction between them and life, and 1s feel that friction inside of them. And 9s hate friction. They want to run away from it as fast as possible. So to force yourself into spaces where there is friction as a 9, but that you have control over, I imagine helps you practice friction, feeling the world affect you, right? And then you can take that to work and you can solve that conflict with your boss because you've practiced already. Ooh, it's all coming together. It's all
preferred way to do that is to think about it for a long.
Yeah, but that's not
time.
actually. You're not actually experiencing the friction when you do that, right?
Correct.
That's why 9s are, like you said, that's why 9s are running away, because thinking does not involve physically feeling the friction of you affecting your life. Yeah. It might make you feel bad. Like Jace will say, I feel bad when I overthink. Like, I don't like overthinking, right? To be fair, that may be more of a 6 space than like thinking processing. But anyway. Agreed.
Another thing I see 9s doing a lot is they collect animals.
I
don't know if you've seen this, but my mom was a dog lady. She had at one time 5 dogs in her house. And
No.
This was
Absolutely not.
there's a massage therapist, Body Peace, 9, who rents from us in one of our buildings, and she likewise has property where she has a farm and just loves the hell out of these animals. But there's living things give you affection, as it were, but they're not creating conflict. So here are my chickens, here are my pigs, here are my dogs, here are my cats, and all the things.
5 to 7s. I think what's interesting about this triad is, like we said with the other ones, none of them are reactive types, which means inherently they are, well, just non-reactive, right? Is what I want to say. Like to be a thinking processor, you have to not be affected by what other people want from you, which is a little different when we get to 9s, right? But especially 5s and 7s are super not affected by what other people want from them, right? Or at least they can hit a gear. 5s, of course, are not affected. 7s, you know, it might get a little complicated, but I think it explains thinking processing to say that inherently to be a thinking processor, you cannot be a reactive number and you cannot get sidetracked by the external world, right? That is required in order to be a thinking processor, is to not be distracted by the outside world. You have to be able to sit with yourself and what you think for an extended amount of time and not think about what's outside, is what I see.
When problems emerge, and this goes alongside ease, notice a natural tendency for 5, 7s, and 9s is to sidestep the problem. 1s, 2s, and 6s will engage the problem. 8s might engage the problem. 3s might engage the problem. For the 5 and the 9, when the problem emerges, a temptation, natural tendency, is just to take a big step back. This is probably somebody else's problem, or let's just see how things go. Let me observe the problem for a moment and see if it handles itself. For the 7, there's a problem here.
Yeah.
You know where there's not a problem?
Over there.
At my friend Charlie's house, he has a board game night.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and like 7s have talked to me about, like what you just said about understanding the problem. 7s, almost all the 7s I know have talked to me about, I love taking things apart. I don't always want to put them back together. Like, I don't always want to spend the time to put them back together. But I do think 7s love understanding things and understanding how they work and taking things apart. They just might be done after that.
Yeah.
But like in Joey's book, like people think 7s are just these flighty people who always run away from things. And that's really not true. Like if you really know a 7, they are thinkers and they're deep thinkers. Truth. Right? You just don't know that because they're independent. They're not telling us, right? But absolutely, they are deep thinkers.
5, this is a good way to see why 7s are not in that process with doing triad. 7s don't care about finishing the job. Like this is not where they find happiness or fulfillment. This is always shocking to me because 7s feel like they want to build something with me.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you how many times I've started a project with a 7 and I'm the one,
finishing it. Yeah.
Finishing the thing. It's like, where'd you go? You were here. Because that wasn't where their energy was at and where what was
tinkering
satisfying.
Is what's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's even, I mean, I suppose for the 7, it's the envisioning. So again, here's the attachment style. 1s, 4s, and 7s. I really want to close. I want to talk about 1s, 4s, and 7s for a second. But for 7s are going to pull you into their thinking about things. Let's envision this thing. Let's envision what's next. Yeah. Actually executing what's next. Again, not where happiness is found. And so they're not processing with action. They're processing with thinking. The real fulfillment that they enjoyed was the envisioning what could be. But after that's done, they got what they wanted.
Yeah, right. Agreed.
Just worth noting.
Yeah.
Because I suppose for myself, I need to know that because I feel abandoned half the time by the 7s in my life.
Well, and I think it's so important to fight back against this 7 stereotype of just being like the party goer, right? And it is like, if you think of 7s as a party goer, that's like an action thing. So you want to put them kind of in an action triad because you think of them as doers and all the things. And that's a fundamental misunderstanding of what it is to be a 7, right?
We're going to
Sevens,
this concert. We're going to this baseball
right?
game.
We're going to do this thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's misunderstanding. And sevens, all the time. Joey said it in her book. They say, people don't take me seriously. That means that there's something about being a 7 that is serious and deep, right? And it's the thinking processing. Like they can access this deep analyzing it from all the places and not finishing it, yes. Like you said, right?
It's understanding people from within or trying to dissect them from their behavior alone. And there it is.
I do want to say, before we move on, if any 7s are listening, I hope you don't feel like we're saying you never finish anything. All we're saying is that you're a thinking processor, and at the end of the day, you don't have to finish something to feel okay, like a doing processor does. So, love you, 7s.
Having lived again with a stepfather who is a 7, who completely tore apart our house and rebuilt it over a 20-year period, execution, finalization, these were not high values for John Lowe, the architect.
Yeah.
And I love the hell out of that man.
Mm-hmm.
However, we had a wall that, like, we live in Colorado, and there was like doors that weren't on the exterior of the house for a year.
Hello? Yeah. That's crazy.
These plastic sheets, they'll work just fine.
Yeah.
Last in the group is the 5s. 5s and 9s, this may be one of those places. I think 5s and 9s are the closest in kind to one another on the Enneagram. I think a lot of it comes out in their behavior, that it's hard to see the difference between 5s and 9s sometimes. But what do you see with 5s and processing with thinking?
Well, if you were going to pick any number on the Enneagram to be a thinking processor, if you pick any other number other than 5, like, that's crazy.
It's true.
I feel like Enneagram 101, like, people could pick 5 out, right? But just what I see again is like I'll think of my dad, right? He is a big doer. He's a CIO. Like, his whole job is moving things forward, right? But what makes him happy and what makes him feel like he is good and competent is just understanding something. He doesn't have to do anything with the thing he understands. He can, because he understands it, right? Correct. And because he understands it, it's very easy for him then to do something with it. But he does not have to ever get to the doing something with it to feel like he has accomplished understanding the thing, right? Yeah. I don't have an example of that off of
description of that.
Yeah, but that, like, all he needs to do is understand it, and then he's like, okay, got it. And it's like, you can see him like put it in his little quiver of arrows, and he doesn't need to take it out right now, right? He just knows that he has it for later. Like, okay, it's understood. It's done. Once I understand it, it's done. And I can access it later, but that's just like extra. All the stuff that I can do with this knowledge that I have now, that's just extra stuff, right? The task is to understand what's happening. That's what I see in 5s.
I want to bring up investors for a second. 5s can be great investors because they can just sit on certain investments for decades and not move. But they understand them thoroughly, and they know the moments where they need to sell.
Yeah.
And that is something, like, that's a resource that a lot of us don't have. Like, the 7 doesn't have that. The 7 in investing is like, well, what else could we put our money into? We want to do it here and here. We want to move things. For some of us, we're terrified and we like are bouncing all the time. But for the 5, I understand the thing.
Who are you talking about?
For some of us, we get really idealistic
nervous.
about physical properties that we can improve, and 4 years later.
Right. Sorry, keep going.
That's what I hear there, is that the 5 has done the mental work to know when they have to move, and are super content to sit back until that movement's required. Notice the ease, notice the thinking in combination there.
I do have an example, actually, with my dad. So the only access I have to his job is if he's home and taking a conference call. Okay. That's like the only time I ever see him do his job, right? He's not like a public figure or whatever. So the only thing I have to understand what he does at work is just listening to like his side of a conference call, right? And what I'm going to say here is that there is a marked difference in his tone if he understands something versus if he doesn't. And it's not like a panicky, like fives don't get panicky. I don't think he feels like, oh my gosh, I need to understand it. But you can tell that he feel like the work is not done if he doesn't understand something. Like he's asking questions. He's like digging into things. He's like, hold on. Like, what do you mean by that? There's just this level that he gets to when he doesn't understand something. And as soon as he gets it, it goes away. Yeah. Even if like everyone else would say the work's not done yet, even if he would say, I know the work's not done yet, but he understands it. So then he can go back to like regular, okay, let's do this. Are you going to do that? Sure, let's do this. Great. But there is and again, I don't want to paint it as like a panicky or like he doesn't understand what's going on, blah, blah, blah. But it's just a different thing he transitions into. You can tell that he is like, I have to get to the point where I understand this before we get off the call. Because that's the thing. He's a thinking processor. That's what he's judging feeling okay based off of, right? That's my example.
I hear there is the natural stress move. Fives can be highly focused on what they know matters most.
Yeah. But he gets really focused on like this one thing until he is good with it.
If he understands, if something comes up that shatters that sense of security, that's where the mind of the five blows open and it says, okay, what are all the other possibilities?
Yeah.
And notice that that's seven space.
Yeah. He'll be like, what? Why did that how did that happen? Right? Like a lot of times it's, and now because he's so good at his job, there's very little that he doesn't understand, right? So what I'm thinking of, typically I imagine something like broke overnight, right? That's something that kind of will happen that he's like in charge of. Like if the tech breaks overnight and he wakes up first thing 8 a.m. and he needs to understand what happened. And so his first calls in the morning when that happens, you can hear him. What happened, right? How did that, I thought, and then someone will say something. He's like, how is that possible? I thought that we had all these protections in place, right? And if you don't know him, you'll think he's angry. And he's genuinely not. He truly isn't. Or you'll just think he's like upset. Maybe you don't think he's angry, but it's just this tone he has when he needs to understand something. And then as soon as he has his head wrapped around what happened, he's like, all right, these are all the things we're going to do to fix it. There you go.
Yes.
Right.
How did this happen? I thought we had these protections.
Right.
That's the five. Right. The five has thought through all of the potential dangers and has invested in assets that insist and ensure the stability and security they desire. Right. So if something broke, we're going to look at the problem in that animated way. But the pivot's going to be immediately to where are my assets?
Yeah.
And how do
what can we use to fix
resolve this?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is where I've heard you say it in the past when talking about like national issues. These are things that make him nervous. And it's because he can't possibly acquire assets that will protect him from national disintegration or something.
So for anyone who hasn't heard me say that, like my dad is very even keeled when it comes to politics, like very, he'll tell you he's in the center on a lot of things, like blah, 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 all the things. And he really, really very rarely gets nervous. And the only thing that'll make him nervous is if I ask like, well, what if the country collapses, right? And like your money doesn't work anymore and all the rules, like the Constitution isn't real anymore. And then he'll be like, well, yeah, that makes, because then I don't know how to function, right? Then I don't have anything. And he won't like really go into it. But that's just, we had one conversation about that one time. That's the only time I've ever heard him admit to, yeah, that would make me nervous, right? Because all of his stuff's gone. I mean, that would make anybody nervous, to be fair. But I thought it was interesting why he said that would make him nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. You want to talk about 1, 4s, and 7s before we
do just real quick. Anyone who's like looking at the list might notice if you went like next level that the 1s, 4s, and 7s are unique in their in their triad in each of these processing centers. 8s and 3s are both independent, but the 1 is reactive. 2s and 6s, both reactive. The 4 is withdrawn. 5s and 9, both withdrawn. 7 is independent. The 1s, 4s, and 7s are outliers also here, in the same way that 3s, 6s, and 9s are outliers on a different front. But there's something about the idealism, there's something about the pulling posture that is, I think, interesting here. And I suppose it's just worth naming that they also come to this space differently than the other two. I'm not sure that there's much to learn there. I don't know if can you see anything there?
Well, I do think it's interesting that those 3 numbers happen to make up another triad, which is the idealists, right? When we talk about how people connect and all those things, like that is another group. I haven't thought about that enough to maybe understand why, right? Mm-hmm. Like, is it connected, being an outlier in your processing center and then being an idealist? Maybe. I haven't thought about it enough to come up with a theory about why, but it's interesting.
Let me shooting from the hip real quick.
Yeah.
If we brought idealists are this is a set of triads that we call affect groups or harmony triads. Going through these real quick, 8s, 3s, and 1s, they're processing with action. 8s are relationists. That means that they are relating to the world through what they provide. 3s are pragmatists. That means that they're connecting to others through the atmospheres they make. 1s are idealists, which means they're pulling people into their ideals. But all of these for 8s, 3s, and 1s are very physical in nature. 8s will provide strength, provide their presence. 3s are going to create atmospheres where people succeed together. 1s are going to pull people into action and execution. Again, I suppose if we were to apply processing center to relationships, notice how a lot of the relationships for 8s, 3s, and 1s are going to be just very much about what we're doing, accomplishing, building together. And sometimes that might just be protecting ourselves.
Right.
2s, 4s, and 6s. 2s offer their help to connect. 4s are going to pull people into an emotional experience, and 6s are going to create space for safety. But again, all of those kind of center on the feelings of others, connecting with others on that emotional front. So the relationships, the strategy for gaining the emotional relational connection is all over how these types come together. And then 5s, 7s, and 9s. 5s are going to offer their knowledge. 7s are going to pull people into envisioning what might happen. And 9s connect through creating peaceful atmospheres. As it stands, I think the 9 is interesting here. The 9 just wants us to think a certain way. That might be a primary for how do I create stability. Is I want us to think about each other, see each other, understand the differences here, but notice how much we have in common, kind of posture, as it were. Anyway, there's probably something to be said there in terms of the overlap of those two sets of triads. Yeah.
Well, it is interesting that you have one of each group in the center. You know what I mean? That's, yeah. I think that's more evidence that these processing centers are a real thing. Because like you said, when it lines up so well and it's symmetrical and it makes sense across all the centers, like that's a clue that you have stumbled onto something real in the Enneagram, right? Yeah. And it's even. There's one number with each that connects in each way in each processing center, all the things. So
agreed. Boom. Well, we may pull apart some of these triads in the future. These processing centers, go a little deeper, get a little critical, maybe.
Do a peer review.
Peer review. There is a desire for peer review. That is what we want. But I think that there's nothing I really want more than to have people who actually have some expertise and some standing and real experience in the Enneagram to come and say, here's the things that I think Jeff hits on that are solid, and here's some things that I think he's getting wrong, and like that's real discussion. So maybe we can offer some of that.
Yeah.
Joey Shuey, her book is When Working Together Doesn't Work. It is out now where fine books are sold.
I got mine on Amazon.
pre-order is on the way.
Pre-order, yep.
Hey, before you sign off, put some comments in our comment if you're listening to this on Patreon. Tell us what you think. Share this with a friend. What else do we want to plug? You got anything else to plug?
Buy Joey's book.
And buy Joey's book.
And buy Joey's book. Yeah.
Hey, guess what, Katie?
What?
You're the best.
You are.
Somebody told me that if you look closely, you can see the color of another man's soul.
Hey friends, it's Jeff. We're getting to interview some of the most intriguing people in the Enneagram world. There are already 20 plus interviews up at aroundthecircle.org, and we're continuing to add more. That site is where we're gathering and platforming all of our best work. Much of it is available for free. Katie Whitlock and I have been doing deep studies working through wings, stance, fear, anger, and shame in our Rewired series. I'm beginning to release chapters from my next Enneagram book, which I'm calling The Steps, for early review for your consideration. And we have monthly online workshops in which 30 or so folks gather to talk about their type. There's audiobooks, there's videos, there's lots of fun stuff, lots to like. Go to aroundthecircle.org, and may all good things be yours.